الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yesterday we were left in limbo. We were reciting Surah Yusuf, and today it was a continuation of Surah Yusuf. We completed Surah Yusuf, completed Surah Ra'd, and as well as Surah Ibrahim as well. MashaAllah, a lot of information today. Inshallah, in a short period of time, inshallah, we'll try to cover whatever we can. Now, Surah Yusuf, continuing, we left off with the story of the well. The Prophet Yusuf ﷺ was thrown into the well. He was only 7 years old. And just to give a brief overview, that within the surah we had mentioned that Surah Yusuf was a surah, it's the only place within the entire Qur'an you will see a detailed description of this story. And it was one of the glad tidings of Prophet ﷺ when he was granted the conquest of Mecca, complete domination, authority. And the Quraysh of Mecca, they were also at the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ. We see the similarity with Yusuf ﷺ as well. That Yusuf ﷺ was also dominated by his brothers and others, as well as he was sent to prison and so on and so forth, just like Prophet ﷺ was dominated by the Quraysh of Mecca. And then the Prophet ﷺ, when he was given authority, he took over Mecca to Al-Mukarramah. Same way Yusuf ﷺ was also given the same form of authority as well. Inshallah, so continuing on from the well, we had mentioned that Yehuda was the brother, he was the eldest brother, and in another narration it mentions that the eldest brother's name is Rubin, but Yehuda was the individual who had some mercy for Yusuf ﷺ within his heart. You know, when you're the eldest brother, you also have that form of, as if it's my responsibility. So when Yusuf ﷺ had pledged and pleaded and appealed to Yehuda, he had also made an oath that I will keep him alive. As long as I am alive, I will not let anyone hurt him. So this is why after the brothers had thrown him into the well, it is said that Yusuf ﷺ remained in this well for 3 days. And the well story is right in the beginning of Surah Yusuf. We're on ayah 10. قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ لَا تَقْتُلُوا يُوسُفَ وَالْقُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. So he was thrown in, it is said, for 3 days. And Yehuda, it is said in one commentary, that every day he used to come and he used to bring food and water for his brother. But anyways, what the other brothers did after they had thrown him into the well, now they had to return to Yaqub alayhi salam, the father, who was feeble, he was senile, he was old. And they had to bring an excuse. And the reason they chose and opted for the excuse of a wolf eating Yusuf ﷺ is because when these brothers were leaving and they had asked if the father can give Yusuf ﷺ, he had initially said, قَالَ إِنِّي لَا يَحْزُنُنِي أَن تَذْهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. I am afraid that a wolf might eat him. In ayah 12, in ayah 13, this is what he had mentioned. And the brother said, how can a wolf eat him when we are so strong, we are so mighty? So that's why وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. They came and they complained that, they made this face as if they're weeping, they're crying, kind of like how kids sometimes they like to do when they want something, they'll fake cry. So this is what the brothers did. And they said, that what you had asked for, that what you were afraid of, that a wolf will eat him, that's exactly what happened. And they came with a shirt, the shirt of Yusuf ﷺ with fake blood upon it. And now Yaqub ﷺ, he was also very intelligent. He was a prophet. So what did he say? He said, after seeing this shirt, they made a mistake. They brought the shirt, it had blood on it. They had actually killed a baby goat and smeared it with blood. So till that point, they were good. But lying is something that you will always get stuck somewhere. This is why the best thing to do in life is just try to stay away from it. That way you will have no guilt within your life. So Yusuf ﷺ, in fact, Surah Yusuf has so many lessons, and I was, pondering over if I should go over the lessons or if I should go over the story. And I realized, because this is the only place where this story will be mentioned, at least this opportunity I should take out just to mention and narrate the story. So this was one of the lessons that, when you lie, there will always be other flaws that you will get caught within. So Yaqub ﷺ realized that, the wolf ate him, but why is this such? That the shirt is completely clean. It's not ripped from anywhere. There's no teeth marks. There's no fangs, nothing. So after seeing the shirt, totally unscratched, Yaqub al-Islam said, my sons, certainly wise was this wolf who ate Yusuf al-Islam in such a manner that the shirt was not torn from anywhere. Meaning he realized that, you guys are up to something. But khair, I will just have to leave it upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Yusuf al-Islam, as he was still within the well, 2-3 days had passed. It is mentioned within another narration that when Yusuf al-Islam was thrown into the well, Jibreel al-Islam had actually come and had protected him from actually falling all the way on the bottom. So he was actually protected. There was something placed underneath him, so he doesn't drown, or he doesn't fall completely into the depths of the well. So the 3rd day or 4th day, when after some time, a Syrian caravan came. That's why it says in ayah 19, وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ فَرَسَلُوا وَارِدَهُمْ فَأَدْلَى دَلْوَى. A caravan came, they were passing by, they were thirsty, they wanted some food or some milk or some water to drink, so they threw down their bucket. And when they threw it down, they saw a kid, they were very surprised. They said, قَالَ يَا بُشْرَى هَذَا غُلَامٌ, glad tidings, there's good news. There's actually a boy within. Now the reason for them it was good news is because they were traders, and for them they were looking for any merchandise that they could find to sell. So for them this was another asset. This was something else that they could sell for some capital. So وَأَصَرُّهُ بِضَاعَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ. Ayah 20. That what did they do? They continued. They picked up this child. Remember, he was only 7 years old. Yusuf alayhi salam, it's mentioned in the narrations, he was such a small boy. So, and this is mentioned in the tafsir of Qurtubi. So they continued on this caravan, they took him with him, and they didn't realize the value of Yusuf alayhi salam. So what did they do? They sold him for a very meager price. Sharahu bithamanin bakhsin, a very paltry price, something so small that did, just a few silver coins. Darahima ma'duda. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. They were not interested within him. They didn't realize his value. So now what happened, it is mentioned within the books that this person who had actually thrown the bucket into the well, his name actually was Malik ibn Dubar. So after they had done this, they sold him. And remember that Yusuf al-Islam and his family were situated within Syria. And the place where they end up moving, the place where Yusuf al-Islam is taken, is in Egypt. So from Canaan to Egypt. Now Yusuf alayhi salam, after he is taken to Egypt and he is offered for sale, people realize his value there. And they started bidding for Yusuf alayhi salam. Who's going to purchase him? Who's going to purchase him? And the bids, it is mentioned, it rose to such a degree that they were ready to give gold, and after gold musk, after musk silk, equal to the weight of Yusuf alayhi salam. But it was such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a whole plan decided for Yusuf alayhi salam. And that's why the ayah in Surah Inshara, Inna ma'al usri yusra, is so true. Allah mentions it twice. There's balagha behind the ayah as well, rhetoric, why Allah mentions it twice. But we don't want to get into that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that after every hardship there is ease. So Yusuf al-Islam went through many hardships. It's countless hardships. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him so much afterwards. So Allah's planning was, when everyone was bidding for him, Allah had destined that this treasure would go to the most powerful authority at the time in Egypt. And that was the Aziz, the king of Misr, the king of Egypt. And he beat all the bids and he purchased Sayyidina Yusuf al-Islam. However, in a narration of Ibn Kathir, Tafsir Ibn Kathir, it is mentioned that the person who had actually bought him was the finance minister of Egypt. So the finance minister's name was Qutfir. And the king of Egypt at the time, his name was Ru'ayyan ibn Usayd. And the king's wife's name was Ra'il, who was famously or commonly known as Zulaykha. But usually they mention that it's the Aziz of Misr or the king of Misr who had purchased him and later on had actually even accepted Islam, because he knew that this child, this boy, was very sincere. He knew that, there's something unique about this child. He's very honest. He doesn't lie. And people around him, his well-wishers, also had the same view about Yusuf alayhi salam. However, what happened was the wife of this king, who was known as Zulaykha, she, after, Yusuf alayhi salam had so much beauty, it is mentioned in one of the narrations that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw that when he met Yusuf alayhi salam, it's as if half the beauty was given to Yusuf alayhi salam and the rest of the beauty, the other half, had been spread across the earth. So meaning, if you were to place it onto a scale, they would have been equal. And then it is mentioned, when you're speaking about your spouse or your husband, the wife would always like to back it up. So it is mentioned by, Aisha radiallahu anha, or the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that, if you were to compare my Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's as if the entire beauty was given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah knows best. We make dua to Allah that we get to, witness these beautiful faces on the day of Qiyamah, on the day of judgment, and when we're inshallah granted entry into Jannah. So what happened was, after that, when it came to the wife, when it came to Zulaykha, وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله. She shut the door, she locked the doors, and she invited Yusuf alayhi salam, come on to me, she had some evil thoughts within her mind. But Yusuf alayhi salam knew, he was very sincere. And there are so many lessons here too. Yusuf alayhi salam was a person who had been given everything. He had been given authority. He had the most jamal, the most beauty at the time. But قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي. He said, I seek refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can I do something like this? May Allah save me. Surely He is my master. So finally what happened when Yusuf alayhi salam refused to do so, when they were about to leave the door, they saw the Aziz of Misr, the king of Misr, standing there. And now the wife had to protect herself. She, the scenario that they were looking at right now, it didn't look very pleasant. So in order to protect herself, she started complaining to the king. In order to, wriggle out of this awkward situation, she tried to put the blame onto Yusuf alayhi salam. That, what should the punishment be for a person who intended evil with your wife? Except that he is given a painful punishment, except that he is punished. He is imprisoned. So when it came to the king, he knew that, this could not be possible from Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam would not do something like this. And this is why right in the beginning, he didn't want to imprison Yusuf alayhi salam. He didn't want to do any of these actions against Yusuf alayhi salam. However, because it was spreading within the city, the word was getting out, the rumors were getting out. In Ayah 30 it is mentioned, وَقَالَ نِسْوَةً فِي الْمَدِينَةِ امْرَأَةُ الْعَزِيزِ تُرَاوِدُ فَتَاهَا عَنْ نَفْسِ. The women of Misr, they started speaking about Zulaykha, that the wife of the governor, seducing her youthful slave. The love for him has arrested her. They started speaking. She is in open air, so on and so forth. So when the word was getting out, they had no choice but to do something to Yusuf alayhi salam. And Zulaykha also, because she wanted to shut these ladies up as well, what ended up happening with them is she invited them. فَلَمَا سَمِعَتْ بِمَكْرِهِنَّ أَرْسَلَتْ إِلَيْهِنَّ. The next ayah, وَاعْتَدَلْ لَهُنَّ مُتَّكَأً وَآتَتْ كُلَّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِنْهُنَّ سِكِينًا وَقَالَتْ اخْرُجْ عَلَيْهِنَّ. She invited these people to the palace, and she said she placed some fruits and food onto the table spread and invited them, and right next to them she put very sharp knives. So now apparently it seems that the sharp knives are there so you can slice up the food or the fruits, and you can eat it in that manner. But her actual what was concealed within her heart, the purpose behind it was when they are put in awe by the countenance of Yusuf alayhi salam, when they see Yusuf alayhi salam and they understand and realize his beauty, it will knock them out of their senses, and accidentally they will end up cutting their own hands. وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. It is mentioned in the Qur'an, Ayah 31. And that's exactly what happened. And that's when they realized why the wife of the Aziz had done something like this. And then when Yusuf alayhi salam was put into this situation, these women also took the side of Zulaykha. And according to some commentators, they mentioned, they started telling Yusuf alayhi salam that Zulaykha was their benefactor, so he shouldn't oppose her. So anyways, the Aziz of Misr, the king of Misr, what he decided to do, after he saw all of this going on, he saw, something really has to be done. Finally, he decided, before people start blaming the actual circle of the king's family, the royal family, they decided to throw him into prison. Now, when he was thrown into prison, subhanallah, even after he was in prison, he was an individual that was loved by everyone. He was that person in prison, in jail, that, everyone admired him. Everyone liked his company. Even it is mentioned in some narrations that people, even the guards and others, would come and say good things about him. But anyways, when Yusuf alayhi salam actually arrived in prison, there were two other individuals with him. Two other criminals that were sentenced. This is in Ayah 36. وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْنَ فَتَيَانِ قَالَ أَحَدُهُمَا إِنِّي أَرَانِي أَعْصِرُ خَمْرًا. Now, they narrated something to Yusuf alayhi salam as well, because one of the unique attributes that Yusuf alayhi salam was given was he could interpret dreams completely, exactly in a manner what they mean. So the interpretation of dreams was something unique that he was bestowed with. So one of these individuals, they mentioned that قال أحدهما إني أراني أعصر خمرا. He was a cupbearer for the king, and the other one was a cook. And Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he actually mentioned, citing major tafsir narrations and authorities, he says that the reason these two were actually admitted into jail was because they both tried to poison the king through his food and drink. So that case was actually under investigation. This is why they were currently held in prison until the case is resolved. So when they came with this dream that they had seen, and they told Yusuf alayhi salam, one of them said, "Inni arani asiru khamra," that I am squeezing the grape or khamar for the king, and the other one said, that I have seen myself that I am holding on top of my head, bread, and from this bread there are تَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْ, there are birds that are eating from it. نَبِّئْنَا بِتَأْوِيلِ, tell us, interpret this dream for us. What does this mean? إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So this is why, it goes more into detail. قال لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما ذلكما مما علمني ربي إني تركت ملة قوم لا يؤمنون بالله وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون. Right away, Yusuf Islam did not interpret the dream. First, it is mentioned within the tafsir that he told them that, he gave some da'wah, he invited them towards Islam, so on and so forth. And then he said, before your food comes to us, before they are served, I will give you what the meaning of this dream is. And finally, he told them that one of the two, you will be released and you will return to your job and keep serving wine to the master, meaning the king. So that was the first individual. And as for the other, he mentioned the crime against him will stand proved, and you will be crucified and birds will eat from your head. So that was the interpretation of his dream. So anyways, as the situation unfolded and they were released, this is exactly what happened. And they forgot about Yusuf alayhi salam, and years continued on. It is mentioned in one narration that 7 years went on where Yusuf alayhi salam was thrown into prison, and then an incident happened in between where Yusuf alayhi salam told the individual, remember me, don't forget about me. And his reason for this was the tawakkul instead of on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of being placed on Allah, it was placed on other means. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some mufassirun mentioned, Allah punished him or taught him a lesson by extending his sentence to 14 years. So it is said for 14 years he was in prison. Finally, the king saw a dream. And when the king saw a dream, in ayah 43, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ إِنِّي أَرَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ سِمَانٍ يَأْكُلُهُنَّ سَبْعٌ عِجَافٍ. What was the dream? He said, I have seen in a dream 7 healthy cows, fat cows, being eaten by 7 lean cows, 7 weak cows. Now that defies logic. It would make sense if it's vice versa. And he saw 7 ears of grain, 7 ears of corn or grain, which are green, and 7 others which are completely dry. So 7 are healthy, 7 are dry. And the number 7 is common with all of them. So now he's thinking, what does this dream mean? So he said, Ya ayyuhal malaw aftuni fi ru'yaya in kuntum lirru'ya ta'abrun. He told those around him that, can you please interpret this dream for me? What does this mean? So they said, قَالَ أَضْغَاثُ أَحْلَامًا. Don't worry about it, man. There's nothing important. This is just, random dreams that you see. After Fajr we see random dreams. We have nightmares. So they said, that's what it is. It's a nothing. You don't need to worry about it. But that individual who was serving wine, who was in prison with Yusuf al-Islam, he recalled that Yusuf al-Islam is a person that I remember he was very good at this. So وقال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة أنا أنبئكم بتأويله فارسلوني يوسف أيها الصديق. The ayah 45 and 46, that he told the king, please let me go back to this person in prison. I know he will be able to help us. So he went back to the person. He said, oh Yusuf, this is the dream that the king has seen. Can you please tell us what it means? And Yusuf alayhi salam, he answered it, and he told him something extra as well. Now what did Yusuf alayhi salam tell him? What was the dream? Before he said it, he wanted everything clear. He wanted to make sure that before he comes out into the open, the king himself wanted to hear the interpretation from Yusuf alayhi salam. But before he did this, he wanted to make sure that his figure is clean, his record is clean when he meets people. It's not that there's false accusations and allegations upon him. So he told him that, قال ما خطبكن إذ راوتن يوسف عن نفسه قلنا حاشا لله ما علمنا. It continues that he said, those women that made allegations upon me, what is the case about them? And finally the king, he brought all those women together, and right away haqq prevailed, truth prevailed. They themselves, when they saw everything that was happening, they admitted themselves that, Yusuf al-Islam was actually honest. It has nothing, whatever we said, everything was a lie. Whatever allegations we made, they were not true. So anyways, when he came out of prison, or even within prison, when he mentioned the dream, he mentioned what it actually means is there will come a time upon the people of Egypt. And he said, what will happen, that you will grow crops for 7 years consecutively, and after that, the crops will flourish, and after that you will have 7 years of a drought. A famine will take place. And then the extra thing he mentioned, that after this 7 years, another year Allah will grant upon you, which will have a lot of rains, heavy rain, and you will extract the juices and the food from this great rain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send down. So ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك عام فيه يغاث الناس وفيه يعصرون. This is mentioned in ayah 49. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions about, now how will they go about with this? And the reason the lean cows were actually eating the fat cows, the reason for that is because it means that the grain that will be stored, all the food that will be stored for the first 7 years, it will actually be eaten up by the 7 years of famine. So everything they had stored that remained healthy in 7 years, it will actually become they will become scarce and scarce in the next 7 years, where they will be eaten up. So now Yusuf alayhi salam, because he was the most knowledgeable upon this topic, how to distribute all of this, the king of Egypt, he decided, what I will do is I will just give this entire responsibility to Yusuf alayhi salam, that you're in charge of this. When the 7 years come, how to actually take care of this, how to keep it with us. And Yusuf alayhi salam mentioned that what we should do in order to arrange cultivation of all these crops in the first 7 years is each and every piece of land, we should try to have maximum coverage. The maximum land area should come under cultivation, so the crops turn out plentiful. And then what we will do alongside that is we will let everyone keep storing 1/5 of the total produce. So that way, when the 7 years of famine come, each and every individual will have their own food in Egypt, and whatever supply is sent to the government because of the fixed taxes, we will save that for people that come from outside of the country to us, because this famine was supposed to be very widespread. This is also mentioned in Tafsir al-Qurtubi. So finally, the king of Egypt, he made Yusuf alayhi salam. In the beginning, he didn't hand over the keys and everything to him. The first year, he kept him as his guest. But as he saw he was doing so well, he handed everything over to him. He made him the finance minister. He entrusted the management of the rest of the state affairs to him, and he had a lot of trust for him. And in this time, also, Qutfir, he also passed away. And it is mentioned in one narration that the king of Egypt actually arranged the marriage of Yusuf al-Islam with Zulaykha at this time. So Wallahu alam. Now, what happened, continuing on with the story, Yusuf alayhi salam, what he decided to do, he set a working system into place. When this drought came into being, the second 7 years came upon him, what he decided to do is each and every individual that is coming from outside of the country, now if they were just to sell it, there will be people that are more wealthy than others. So some people will purchase a lot, just like we see today. In the current situation, there are some people that are just hoarding everything. They want to purchase all the toilet paper from the grocery stores. And then when the other people come, there's nothing left for them. No hand sanitizers left for them. So the same thing happened. Yusuf al-Islam set a system in place from the very beginning, that there will be a limit. Limit 1, limit 2. He said, we will only give one person equivalent to 1 camel load of grain. And that's exactly what they did. And at this time, Yusuf al-Islam was 47 years old. Remember, he was 7 years old when he was thrown into the well. Now he's 47 years old when he is distributing things to everyone. And this is when the brothers of Yusuf al-Islam, Yaqub al-Islam, the father, was informed that the people of Egypt are very sincere. They're very nice. They're giving out food. So he sent his sons there as well. And when he sent his sons, there were 2-3 trips they had to make. The first trip they made, what did they do? And I'm skipping on a lot of details because it's a very detailed surah, but I'm trying to keep it limited. Yaqub al-Islam told the sons that the first time they went, they were given one camel load for each and every individual. But at the same time, Yusuf alayhi salam, because he recognized them, but they didn't recognize him, because this is 40 years later. But he was young, so when you're older, your facial features don't change as much. But when you're a child, you change drastically. So when Yusuf alayhi salam realized them, he didn't tell them right away. But he did ask, he's like, is this your entire family? Because only 10 brothers had come. The 11th brother, his full brother Binyamin, who was younger than him, had not come, because this was Yaqub al-Islam's form of comfort and solace, so he wanted to keep him with him. So Yusuf al-Islam knew he was not there, so he asked the brothers, is there anyone else within your family? So they said, yeah, there's our brother as well, but he couldn't come because our father, he already lost one son, he didn't want to lose another one, not knowing that he was Yusuf al-Islam, the person they were speaking to. So finally, Yusuf al-Islam told them, if that is the case, because you're asking food for him as well, now the only way I can give this to you is if you bring him back with you. And now the reason now they were kind of forced to bring him back with them is because if they didn't, they would be considered liars. And if they were liars, they would be punished for that. So now they went back to the father. They told the father, what should we do? They're asking for Binyamin as well. Let us go back and we will bring more food as well, and then we will have an extra camel load. Let us do this. And Yaqub al-Islam is like, you already took one son away from me. Are you going to do that to my other son as well? But when they opened up their bags, when they opened up their camel loads and everything, they noticed that whatever they had paid, all the jewelry, the cash, to purchase all of this, Yusuf a.s. had told his people to return it to the brothers in a manner that they would not notice until they opened up all the provisions. So when they finally opened up everything in front of Yaqub a.s., they saw this and they said, قالوا يا أبانا ما نبغي هذه بضاعتنا ردت إلينا. Oh, our father, look at this. All of our wealth has been returned to us and we got the food. So there's no way that they're lying to us. They're not trying to trap us. The people of Egypt are sincere. And the reason Yusuf a.s. had done this is because if they were to see this, he knew that Yusuf a.s., the people would actually want to come back because of this. So now, finally, they decided to come back with Binyamin as well. When Binyamin came back, Yusuf a.s., he kind of whispered to Binyamin and he kind of, told him the secret that, I am actually your brother Yusuf a.s. And the other brothers did not know yet. What did he do? This time, when the brothers came and they were being returned, Yusuf a.s. told one of his people to, place something wealthy into one of their knapsacks, one of their backpacks. And right when they were leaving, Yusuf a.s., the people, they called out that in ayah 70, فَلَمَّا جَهَزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ ثُمَّ أَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ أَيَّتُهَا الْعِيرُ إِنَّكُمْ لَسَارِقُونَ. One person called out right before the brothers left that, oh, you people, you guys are thieves, what are you doing? And they were confused, like, what do you mean we're thieves? We didn't steal anything. قَالُوا وَأَقْبَلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ مَاذَا تَفْقِدُونَ. They said, you're accusing us. So they said, no, you have stolen something from us. We're missing something valuable. So they said, okay, fine. You can check us. And they said, what should the punishment be if we actually find it with you guys? So they said, the punishment could be that you could take whoever you find it with. So they actually looked for this valuable item and they found it in Binyamin's backpack. So when they found it there, now the brothers, they lost it. And they're like, we already lost Yusuf al-Islam. Yaqub al-Islam, he really pleaded us to make sure nothing happens to Binyamin. And now at this time, the first time it was deliberate. This time they were not planning to do this. So that's why this was really difficult on them. They're like, no, there's no way you can take him. Binyamin has to stay with us. So the eldest brother Yehuda, once again, because he had sympathy, he said, if that is the case, exchange him for me. You can keep me, but let Binyamin go back. But obviously Yusuf a.s. did not want that. So what happened was, and some narrations have mentioned that this brother Yehuda also stayed back. But when they returned to the father, he was just buried and he was tearing up in his grief for Yusuf a.s. and Binyamin. However, when they came back the last time, this is when Yusuf a.s., because it is mentioned in some of tafsir authorities, Tahaq and Mujahid, they mention that there was actually also a letter that was sent to Yusuf a.s. from Yaqub a.s. And Yaqub a.s. didn't know he was Yusuf a.s. He thought it was just a minister. And he mentioned within this letter many things. He mentioned, my grandfather is Ibrahim a.s. and my father is Ishaq a.s., who was also a prophet. Our our family, it's known about us that we're also challenged with so many difficulties. Even myself, I was challenged. My son was taken away from me, Yusuf alayhi salam. So please, have some sympathy upon us. And this is when Yusuf alayhi salam had said that he just teared up. He couldn't take it anymore, and he revealed the secret. قال هل علمتم ما فعلتم بيوسف وأخيه إذ أنتم جاهلون قالوا أئنك لأنت يوسف. In ayah 89 and 90. This is when the brothers realized, wait, you are Yusuf. It is mentioned that even in the table spread that they were invited towards, it said Yusuf, 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 Yusuf everywhere. And that's where they realized that, this is Yusuf alayhi salam. This is our brother. We can't believe that the same Yusuf that we threw into the well. And you see, this is the taqdeer of Allah. You never know how the future will unfold. Over here you have 11 brothers that are throwing a brother into the well. It seems like, they have the upper hand. Now 40 years later, look at the situation. These brothers, they're bankrupt. They have nothing. And they're pleading and they're coming to a person who is the minister and is actually Yusuf alayhi salam. And they don't even realize that they're begging to their very own brother. And when they realized this, they said, قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ لَقَدْ آثَرَكَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah gave you preference over us. We can't believe this. But now what happened? My brothers, they always want to take revenge on me. Now I'm the minister. That's it. Now I have power. I'm going to punish these guys. They're dead meat. I got them. Now you guys go to prison. Let me throw all of you guys into the well. No. قَالَ لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ. In ayah 92, it is mentioned that Rasulullah said the same exact statement when he entered into Makkatul Mukarramah, the conquest of Makkah. He didn't say that now I'm going to kill everyone, now I'm going to beat you guys up, and I'm going to torture you guys the way you guys did to me when I was in Makkah. No. This is the character, manners, conduct of a Muslim. That we don't fight evil with evil. We always fight with good. لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. Yusuf said, don't worry, there's no reproach upon you today. May Allah forgive you. يغفر الله لكم. And He is the most merciful. And this is when it is mentioned that when Yusuf alayhi sent these brothers back the last time, it is said that he sent them with so many provisions because he wanted the entire large family to come back. It is said that he sent such a large supply of clothes and articles with them that it was loaded onto 200 camels. So when they came back, Yaqub and others, it was actually 72 in some narrations, and in other narrations 93 men and women that had returned, the family of Yusuf ﷺ. And right away it is said when they came, Yusuf ﷺ got all the people of Egypt outside of the city to receive these people. They were given so much honor. The 4,000 soldiers also presented as a guard of honor for them, and Yusuf ﷺ showed them all of this respect, this izzah that was given to them. And Yusuf ﷺ, one other thing that I also missed out was, within this time, Yusuf ﷺ, there was also something that was given to the family, I should say, of Yusuf ﷺ. So this is the father, grandfather, the great-grandfather, which is a certain cloth. And this was the very cloth that Yusuf ﷺ sent with his brothers because Yaqub ﷺ, his eyesight had become very dull. He had become blind. He couldn't see anymore. So it was told that put this cloth onto the eyes of my father Yaqub ﷺ, and فَارْتَدَّ بَصِيرًا, his eyesight would return to him. And it is said about this cloth, this was the same cloth that Ibrahim ﷺ had used, and then it's actually the same clothes that Ibrahim ﷺ, when he was thrown into the fire by Namrud, this was the cloth that was actually sent from paradise, from Jannah, to actually protect him from that. So it is said it's that same cloth that was passed on to the son Ishaq ﷺ, and then he sent it to Yaqub ﷺ. And it is said that Yaqub ﷺ had actually put it into a ta'weez and actually had put it around the neck of Yusuf ﷺ. And because Yusuf ﷺ still had it with him, he had sent it with his brothers. So at the very last ayah of the surah, ayah 111, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending us a message. These stories are not just for games. This is not just a fun bedtime story. Surely in the narratives of these, there is a lesson for the people of understanding. There's so many lessons mentioned within the surah. As I was saying, I don't know if I should focus on the lessons or the surah. But because the surah only came once, I wanted to mention the surah. And inshallah, we can probably have another series or something, just reflecting upon the lessons in the surah. And then Allah mentioned, مَا كَانَ حَدِيثًا يُفْتَرَى. This is not an invented story. وَلَكِنْ تَصْدِيقَ الَّذِي بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. Rather, it is a confirmation of what has been before it. and an elaboration of everything. And most importantly, hudan wa rahmatan liqawmin yu'minun. It is a guidance and mercy for the people who believe. So this was Surah Yusuf. There's so many things mentioned in the surah that we can take lessons from, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really give us the ability to do so. This is another tafsir that I would recommend, because it's like a story that you should try to read the entire tafsir. The translation from the Noble Qur'an by Mufti Taqi Uthmani, and if you want to go more into detail, a great tafsir for this that is very easy, because both of these tafsir that I usually recommend and translation I recommend is something that's, the English is very modern, it's easy to understand. So the tafsir would be Ma'arif al-Quran, which goes into detail in a manner that we understand better. And then the next surah was Surah Ra'd. It's thunder. I'm not going to go into it, but just 1 minute on that, I would mention that it speaks about truth and tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason it's called thunder, Ra'd means the clashing of the clouds, the noise that it makes, meaning thunder. And it's that one example of the power of Allah is He gives the thunder, He gives thunder, He strikes it upon whomever He wills and whenever He wills. So, and the thunder itself, it recites Allah's praise. وَيُسَبِّحُ الرَّعْدُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ مِنْ خِيفَتِهِ. It's one of the ayahs that are mentioned, ayah 13. It is also mentioned that this is the ayah we should recite when thunder takes place or lightning takes place, in order to protect ourselves. So that was ayah 13. And then we go on, there's one very important ayah that's mentioned in Surah Ibrahim. The reason it's mentioned, it's named after Surah Ibrahim, is because in this surah there's a description of the attributes of the mission of messengers and prophets, and then it's followed by a theme of tawheed, the oneness of Allah. There's proofs that are given, and then because Ibrahim went through the same concept, the same procedures, his story is very much linked with the context of the surah. This is why it's named after him. And one very important ayah that is mentioned is ayah 7. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. I shall certainly give you more if you are grateful, and if you are ungrateful, then my punishment is severe. Now there's many different tafsir that are mentioned, but the main point we should understand from this is the more we are grateful for Allah, Allah will always give us more, and we will have better times within our life. And the more ungrateful that we are, the more that we don't take heed of the blessings of Allah, we're ungrateful, we always look at people that have better than us, and we're always complaining that we don't have enough, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the correct understanding. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه